Hi guys, hope wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you're having a sensational day and you're staying cool because it's very, very hot everywhere in Australia today. So we're talking on the topic of childcare today, and choosing a childcare centre, I guess, for your children is something that can be ridiculously hard. Handing your child over to someone that you may not potentially know or don't know at all or don't know very well is something I think for all parents it's extremely difficult.
It is.
Coupled with that, also that not only do you have to find a centre that that I guess sort of fits your own sort of personal philosophy, but then your child's needs, and also basically just has positions available on the days and the hours that you actually sort of need help. So there's lots to talk about on this topic today, and we're going to try and cover snapshots of everything. But as you can see, with one of my favourite people ever, it's Bree Hansen from Bree Hansen. And Bree's got some incredible experience in this space. So first of all, Bree, can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, the article that we've published for you and your experience in this space before we sort of head into the three key questions?
Sure. So I was an early childhood educator for 14 years. I still actually consider myself an early childhood educator. I've just stepped out of the field this year for the first time. Basically I actually fell into B minor music through being an educator. So I have a history and the background in performance. And we had an amazing music teacher who retired, and we couldn't find a music program that just suited the needs of our centre. And my director said, well, you do really good group times, do you want to give it a go? And I was just like, yeah, I will actually, and ran music sessions at our centre for a couple of years, and then thought, oh, I like this, and branched out to other centres, and B minor music was born.
It's incredible when your life purpose just presents itself in the everyday opportunities.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, so 14 years experience is incredible in the industry, and things are continuously evolving and
changed
growing.
A lot since I started.
But there's lots to talk about. So let's just a quick overview of the article, and we get straight into the questions, and we can sort of touch on all the other points throughout it.
Yeah, sure. So basically in the article, I'm just talking about things that you need to look for, questions that you need to ask. I talk a little bit about regulations around Australia. They're all different in every state. And also just about the most important thing is knowing that the centre is right for you is by the way that it feels. I think that's the biggest point I need to make in this article. So you can have the best advice. You can go and buy swap and sell sites. You can ask people their advice, but at the end of the day, it's the way that you feel. Because I know, especially when we were coming with our parent groups, and I was saying to all the families, oh, this is an amazing centre, and my eldest is here, and and they were just like, oh, actually we like the other one down the road, which I didn't like at all. So it really is one of those things that feels right for you.
Right.
And totally.
100%. Well, we've got lots to talk about, so let's get straight into the first question.
Yep,
the question number one we have, now what are the things you need to look for when you visit a centre?
So one of the first things you need to do is look for how the educators are engaging with the children. So if they're standing back and just watching or not actually interacting with the children, then you kind of got to go, okay, what are you doing with your time? And it's easy to kind of judge as well, because that person might be standing back to allow the children to explore by themselves. Are they all in little groups talking to themselves? Do the staff look like they interact well with each other? Or are they respectful of each other? Also, do they have sustainable practices? So have a look around, ask them, what do you do for sustainability? Are they well resourced? So a lot of centres don't have a lot of funds. It's not a business that makes a lot of money. And then, there's a lot of non-for-profit and community.
We're saying that this is the different types of sort of centres you can have around Australia, sort of broken down into, I get 4 sort of key groups. The council run and operated.
Sure.
Some councils then own the facility, but then have another organisation or an early years manager to operate the childcare centre and sort of services for them. So that's the second.
Right. Yep.
Number 3 is just a not-for-profit organisation just running it on their own. And the 4th would be a complete private sort of commercial organisation. So council run and operated. Council the building's owned but operated by another organisation, not-for-profit or privately owned and operated.
So basically So, as I was saying with the resources, it's one of those things where you might look around. I know that years ago I was a student at a centre, and in their dolls' houses they had McDonald's Happy Meal toys because that's what they could afford. You know, parents were throwing them out, and so you know, like personally, I love the centres that are full of natural materials and you know the woods and everything like that, and you know they're rich with open-ended experiences. I tend not to like the centres that have the plastic or the rundown things. That's just my, you know, personal experience. And again, the whole article is about personal experience. But you know, from my point of view, if it's rich with, you know, open-ended experiences, lots of natural materials. That's
so what it actually feels like.
Yeah.
We were just speaking before as well. So just, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to the question. Oh, the questions to ask. I was going to cover off on the different standards, but we'll cover it off on that question.
Yes.
So you keep going. So
other things we need to look at is are the children happy? And if they're not happy, that happens. You know, children do have emotions. If the children aren't happy, how are the educators coping with this? You know, are they engaging with the children? Are they helping them through their emotions and stuff like that? So it's a really good situation. Sometimes if you walk into a centre and something bad is happening, it's actually a great opportunity for you to go, oh, is that how they, you know, deal with this situation and everything like that? And are they freely able to move in and out of the program? So if they have an indoor-outdoor program, this is a general speaking thing, it's generally a really good centre. Because that means that the children have an opportunity to explore indoor and outdoor spaces as they need, rather than saying, okay, you need to be at this place at this time and, you know, that place at that time.
Yeah. One thing we're talking about earlier on as well, that here in Victoria, it's a government policy to start integrating these childcare centres into these integrated hubs, which makes it a lot easier for parents because everything's under one roof. Yep. So in an integrated hub, typically which would be council run, would have now your 3 and 4-year-old kinder. A lot of them would already have had it, but now it's going to be funded. So funded 3 and 4-year-old kinder, childcare, maternal child health, allied services, and different things like play groups and things like yoga classes and all that sort of stuff. But how childcare sort of works with these hubs is the fact that it's sort of wraparound care. So if a working parent has got a child at 4-year-old kinder, they can be at childcare before and after. So that wraparound care, which is a really, really great service to be able to have. And when they are there for a whole day, it's imperative to ensure that they are happy and all of these things that you mentioned.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
So let's get into question number 2.
Yep.
Question number 2 is, you know, what questions do you need to ask?
So one of my first things is, what are the ratios in the room? So as I explained, they're all different throughout Australia. So in Victoria, for example, it's 1 to 4 for under 3s, and 1 staff to 11 children for over 3s. And I'll just have to have a look for the rest of the countries. So for under 2-year-olds, it's 1 to 4 educators nationwide, except Victoria is 1 to 3. Then it's 2 to 3 is 1 to 5 children in all states except for Victoria, as we discussed. And then over 3s, it's 1 to 11 children in ACT, Northern Territory, Queensland and Victoria. And then 1 to 10 children in Tasmania, New South Wales, South Australia and Western Australia. So what you want to do is, before you go in, just find those regulations. You can find them by Googling them. They're in the Children's Services Regulations. And then you can kind of just scan the room and just have a look and see how many children there are, how many staff there are in the room. If they're meeting regulations or if they're over, that's an amazing sign. So a good centre will often have an extra staff floating around, you know, which helps. Yeah. Because it really, you know, children need adults, especially when they're younger. So, ask them what their centre philosophy is. So every centre will have a philosophy and a mission. You want to ask them, make sure it matches your philosophy. So it could be an amazing centre, but if your philosophy is totally different, then it's probably not going to suit your family.
And with that as well, maybe just ask them how they demonstrate that. Because the thing is, you can have a mission, you can have a philosophy, and it's all nice, but you want to be able to know how do they actually integrate that, and ask them for examples, like okay, how they do it in their day-to-day. That way it's real and it's active, it's live, it's not just a thing on the wall.
Yeah, great point. You also want to ask them whether they offer food or whether you have to bring your own food. Now, if they do offer food, centres have approximately 75% of a child's daily needs to be offered while they're in childcare. So you want to ask them what kind of food they offer. And again, make sure that meets your needs. If you're a family who has halal food, make sure they have halal. If you're a vegan or if you have dietary requirements, anaphylaxis, you want to make sure that centre, especially with allergies and stuff like that, understands the importance of allergies. So, and that brings me to the next thing, medical conditions. If your child has a medical condition, you want to know that the centre that you're sending them to understands that and is going to be able to meet your child's needs. I know some centres are a little bit scared of this. Other centres are amazing and take it on board and will make changes where necessary. I know one year we had a child that wasn't allowed to have any water play or anything like that because it would affect her lungs. So there was a 3-year period where any room that she was in, all of the water had to be fresh and couldn't be left, throughout the day. And that was just something that we had to do for that child. So I know a lot of people would be like, oh, well, maybe the child shouldn't be there. Well, no, the child should be there. Childcare is for exclusive purposes. So we want to include every single child within the community, no matter what their needs are. So that's something that you do need to, make sure is 100%. We also ask the educators how long they've been in the service. So if the centre has loads of staff that have been around for years, that's a really good sign. That means that they love to be there and they're being treated well and they're happy to work there. If turnover's really high, not that it's a bad centre, but just be wary, ask, did you have a change of management? Because with change of management, often a rollover of staff comes, or, ask, why is there a high turnover? A lot of staff will actually be honest with you and tell you. If you think there's something shady about their answer, then you kind of got to go, okay.
And that can disrupt a child's sort of just daily flow and routine if they're really sort of attached to it.
They need a primary caregiver. Exactly. Yes, they need someone to attach to. So also, how does your program work? So program planning can be totally different from centre to centre. There is no right or wrong answer with this. A lot of centres use Story Park, which is a brilliant way for educators and families to communicate with each other. So you just want to ask them, do you do early?
Maybe just explain what Story Park is.
Okay, so Story Park is a program where basically all of the educators can write all of their observations of the children, write about their program, how they're extending their program, and families can get photos, little stories, videos of their children, what they do during the day. And then basically the families then can communicate back and they can say, oh, we went to the farm on the weekend and my child loved the cows, and then the educators can go, oh, okay, let's set up a farm experience in the room and let's extend their interests further. So it's a beautiful way to link home life to childcare life. So,
and I think it's a really great demonstration of how technology can be for good, because at least you feel as a parent you can be kept up to date what's happening on a day-to-day basis. I know for my children who go to school, they use Seesaw, which is a similar program, and I love getting my little messages every day with the pictures of what they're doing, and then when they get home you can actually communicate with them and say, oh, did you do this today? And then they can explain, instead of a question, what did you do today?
Nothing. I don't know, I can't remember. So, and especially for younger children who may find it harder to communicate as to what they did, it's a great thing to be able to say, oh, I saw you playing with Play-Doh today, and did you make this experience? And
so definitely ask them, do they use Story Park? And there's other technology out in the market, and there's a new one called Explore as well. There's lots of Story Park is by far sort of I think it's the most popular.
Yes, for sure. Also ask, what other questions do we have? How they communicate with families. So some centres might have paper where they write down what the children have done, when they slept, when they've eaten, how many nappy changes they've had. Some people might have it up on a board. Do they have a communication book? Can you call as many times as you want? I know years ago when I was in the baby's room, I had a mum who called every day when majority of the children were asleep, and we'd speak for half an hour every day. She'd want to know every single detail, and I loved that. It was actually a really nice time for us to talk about what she'd done. And of course, if you've got 12 children, you can't have 12 parents, but And yeah, basically, do they supply nappies? So some centres supply nappies, some don't. If you've got cloth nappies, you want to be asking, will you be able to use cloth nappies on my child, or will they be using disposable nappies? Ask them what their procedures are with that kind of stuff. And, you know, just general things like what happens if my child gets dirty, where do you put my clothes, just a whole heap of those kind of questions. What do I bring? Those kind of things. Yeah.
And another thing as well, here in Australia, all of the centres are sort of governed and rated by a government organisation by the name of ASEQA. Fortunately enough, Kitty Pete is in partnership with their division Starting Blocks, which is really, really exciting.
Amazing,
But ASEQA stands for Australian Children's Education, Care and Quality Authority. So just so you know, I guess all of the childcare centres actually have to are rated, and there's 7 quality national quality standard areas. And just quickly, just so you know, and these are just things I think it's important for every parent to know also. So the first one is educational program and practice. Second one is children's health and safety. 3 is physical environment. 4 is staffing arrangements. 5 is relationships with children. 6 is collaborative partnerships with families and communities, similar to the question you just asked. And 7 is governance and leadership. So all centres have to adhere to a whole heap of government regulations and legislation and standards, of course. Coupled with this, there's something as well called the National Quality Ratings, which, are you going to speak about that in the next question? The ratings.
We can touch on that. Yeah. So basically, you can have ratings that range from significant improvement required, which means that the centre has a lot of work to do. They're probably not meeting their paperwork. Policies and procedures probably aren't in place, but they're hanging in there. Working towards usually means that you've probably covered most areas, but you might be lacking in a couple of areas, so you need to work towards those. So next time you get rating, you want to try and get a little bit of a higher. Meeting means that you're meeting all of the standards, and exceeding means that you've gone above and beyond. So you're not only meeting all of the standards, but you've just gone out there and you've got an amazing centre. And then there's excellent, which you have to then apply for once you meet exceeding. And I think there's probably only about 7 centres, I might be wrong, but around 7 centres in Australia that meet excellent. So if you've got an exceeding centre, you're pretty lucky. But as I was discussing to Rach before, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right centre for you. So at the end of the day, you've really got to go in there, and I think most importantly, bring your child with you. You can't just go by yourself. You've got to bring your child in there and see how they interact. So if they go in there and they're very uneasy, then it may not be the right centre for you. Like if they go in there and they run off and they start playing and exploring and look like they're really comfortable, you're pretty much on to a winner. So, yeah.
Well, so we'll post some links through to some of the articles about Starting Blocks. So if you've got any other questions, they are the go-to, and they're lucky enough to sort of share some of our articles at Kittypedia as well. But we'll definitely have some more information. But this is really good for parents to know also that there's these regulations out there and a governing body that ensures that all of the childcare centres actually sort of meet those.
And there are a lot of regulations to meet.
100%. which there needs to be, of course.
Yeah.
So question number 3, what should I bring my child or children with me when looking at centres? What should you actually bring?
Okay, so when you brought your child to a centre and you've chosen a centre, then basically you would, each centre is different, but you generally bring lots of pairs of clothes. I always say at least 3 pairs of clothes, because a good centre will have mud play, they'll have water play, they'll get messy doing all of those kind of things. If you have to supply your own nappies, they have to change nappies every 2 hours. So you want to bring, at least every 2 hours worth of nappies, a hat, drink bottle for the younger babies. Some centres provide bottles, other centres don't. If you've got formula, you might have to supply that. So every centre's different. But just make sure you ask the centre, like, what do I need to bring, and they'll help you out there. But
and the last thing we just wanted to touch on is the new childcare subsidy, which was just released recently. Basically, it merges two payments into one. So most parents would know about this anyway now, but it's all in all, I guess the subsidy is actually sort of working towards both parents returning back to work, and the focus of the new subsidy is on assisting families in need, and I guess to assist the families that are most vulnerable, so children can actually continue access to childcare where they may not be able to afford it.
Yep.
Which is really wonderful. So we'll put another link at the bottom of this as well. But there's 4 additional payments with the new childcare subsidy, or the CCS, and they are, which I won't go into them. I'll just read out the heading. So the child wellbeing payment. One for grandparents, one for temporary financial hardship, and another one for transition to work. So the Australian government's doing a lot to be able to ensure that as many families, and especially those who are disadvantaged or in need or experiencing vulnerability, have access to quality childcare. Yep. Childcare itself is obviously it can be quite expensive. So on average, it's at least a minimum $100 up to $200 a day. So it's something you need to be able to, depending on what your circumstances and what you actually would get back from the childcare subsidy, it is a serious investment. So you need to make sure that you actually are comfortable with the provider and everything that encompasses that as well. So is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
Maybe we can just talk about, there's different versions of childcare as well. So there's family daycare.
Oh, yes.
There's long daycare.
Yep.
There's kinder sessional.
All in all, so we have long daycare or childcare. We've got family daycare services. There's preschool, kindergarten, out of school hours care and services. So I'll in some of the links that I'll post as well, that will sort of explain the difference between all of them as well.
Yep.
But but all in all, we're really, really just honoured as always for your time.
Thank you very much
and for chatting. And we'll post all those links at the bottom of the interview. And by all means, if you've got any other questions, shoot through those questions. We'll answer them for you. Yep. But thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you for talking.
As always.
Yes, it's always great.
And take care, guys. Give my love to the kids, and we'll speak soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.